Chapter 8 Verity, a Prestige. Lunar date 3.1625.3.27. 3 hours and 31 minutes after dayrise. The day after Shyloe and her went to Sumuku Lake, Abigale went to see Dorn. It took some convincing. Eventually, he agreed to restore their relationship. He reminded her that with his prestige, he could have chosen any woman he wanted in the world, but he wanted her. Abigale wasn't swayed by his words. After their breakup, his social image had faltered slightly. This allowed him to rebound in the eyes of the average Palmaran citizen. Despite this, she still smiled, laughed, and pretended to enjoy her time with him in order to appease her parents. In the past few weeks, Dorn and her spent more time together when her schoolwork and internship were finished. She did want to give him a chance. She wanted to see if she could fall in love with him like she did with Daniel. Oh, Daniel, she thought while studying the waves of the Patheris Ocean about 50 meters beneath Dorn's Cosmospeeder. He supported her decision to enter back into a relationship with Dorn. At first, she was confused by his actions. However, as she pondered them more, she came to realize how in character it was for him. This was his way of showing honor to her and to Dorn. If he did have feelings for her, he placed them to the side. He believed her being with Dorn was what was better for her future. Due to the pressure on her life, Abigale was willing to give Dorn a second chance. Actually, this is more like the 5th or 6th chance. For crying out loud. It isn't like I have a choice in the matter. Last night, Dorn messaged her Nexus and told her to be ready for an early morning pickup. He didn't tell her where they were going, despite her constant questions. Once the trip was underway, she bugged Dorn again for hints. He refused to answer. In response, Abigale asked Candy about their destination. Before Dorn could stop the AI, Candy informed them they were heading northwest towards Cladonia. That was all she discovered. Dorn commanded Candy not to give out any more information. Shortly thereafter, Dorn set the speeder on autopilot and fell asleep. Abigale half expected him to use the time to make a move on her. Instead, he wanted to catch up on his rest. Part of her was relieved and part of her was hurt. She didn't know which part she found more annoying. With nothing better to do, Abigale brought up her reading for her Legends of Palmara class she was taking in her C block. They were currently discussing the legend of creation. Abigale was curious if Daniel believed these legends to be true or not. She suspected he did. I will have to ask him the next time we get together. I'm curious to know what he thinks. No one in the class believes it to be true, not even Professor Mandor. As the legend told, Palmara was created with 4 continents which were separated by the Patheris Ocean and given the original names of Cladonia, Morosia, Beltor, and Calmorn. Despite the multitude of name changes of cities and other bodies of waters over the thousands of years, those 6 names remained constant. Arnion created a diverse group of humans to inhabit the infant world. Roughly 500 humans were placed on each continent in a fully established city, constructed according to the people's innate culture and design. They already knew how to speak and write and were given the knowledge of the existence of the other continents. It was up to their first ancestor to discover how to connect with the other kingdoms and establish trade and peace. Or at least, that is what the legend says. I'm not sure I believe this is how the world came into being. Doesn't make any sense. Why would Arnion create the 4 different kingdoms? Why not have everyone be in the same place? I think this is just our ancestors' way of trying to explain something they didn't fully understand. She kept reading. Beneath them, the waves disappeared and were replaced with the massive prairies and the rocky highlands of Cladonia. During the First Age, named the Age of Arnion because of the devotion of the people to Arnion's 9 proclamations, the 4 capital cities bore different names in their current forms. Huxtriel in Cladonia was known as Sharvalim. Sinshala in Calmorn was called Nimrash. Adminbar in Beltor was Magdala. And Morinth in her home continent of Morosia was named Ephrath. Those names were changed by Drakon when his empire took over the world, and they remained the same for the past 3,700 years. At the beginning of the Age of Progress, which she was recently taught in the fall of the Drakon Empire, Wilbur was asked if he'd changed the names. He was quoted as saying, "The Drakon Empire has ruled the world for the past 2,100 years. They erased much of what was established before. We will not be the same. Palmara is our home, and the names that once provoked fear in some will now be reclaimed for the betterment of our people. We cannot erase our past in the hopes to create a better future. If we do, we are bound to repeat the same mistakes." Abigale memorized the quote for no other purpose than it being something good to remember, especially since she was a student of studying the past so the people in the present could have a better understanding of where they originated. Not surprisingly, Wilbur faced backlash for that decision, especially from those who wanted Valtor and Adminvar to be completely destroyed, as they were the capital of the Dracon Empire. Wilbur reminded the people it was a conflict between Valtor and the other kingdoms during the Age of Arnion, which made the world ripe for Dracon's eventual takeover. As one of the newly appointed leaders of Palmara, Wilbur wasn't in any position to make the decision on his own, nor was he willing to repeat the same mistake that his ancestors made. The world wasn't easy after the Empire's fall. It took years for the governments of Palmara to stabilize. Disputes were settled, treaties were signed, forgiveness was given. Wilbur's dream was finally obtained. Though, I wonder if Wilbur would be proud of the world Palmara became. I doubt he'd think very highly of prestige. Master Dorn, Candy said with a deep male voice, interrupting Abigale's reading. We will be arriving at your destination shortly. Dorn woke up and rubbed his eyes. Excellent, Candy. He turned to face Abigale. You are going to love this. Am I? She didn't need to pretend to be intrigued. She was curious to know where they were going and why. Yes, I have no doubt. Some of the other girls I know wouldn't be impressed by this, but I know you will. Abigale bit her tongue. The other girls Dorn knew were ones who shared his bed with him because she refused. Most people would be more than willing to sleep with someone who had more prestige than them in the hopes that they could maybe climb the ladder faster. She simply didn't want to give that power to Dorn yet. The laws of Palmara protected both women and men from being forced into having sexual intimacy. If anyone broke these laws, they immediately lost all their prestige. This was a deterrent enough for the people of Palmara. As well, any children born outside of marriage were granted the same prestige as their parents. As far as I know, Dorn doesn't have any children out there, Abigale thought. You know, the more I think about it, the more I believe Wilbur wouldn't be pleased with the world we have created in his stead. That is a bold claim, Abigale returned to the conversation with Dorn. I can't think of many things that would amaze me that wouldn't also amaze someone else. Dorn smiled handsomely. His defined cheekbones and concrete jawline was enough to make any girl take a second look at him. It also helped that his tan skin appeared to be void of any imperfections. He was very attractive, more so than Daniel if she was being honest with herself. Not that she believed Daniel to be ugly by any definition of the word. After today, you won't have any doubts about our future together, Abigale. I can give you a world you have only dreamed of having. You won't need anything or anyone else. She hadn't told Dorn about her feelings toward Daniel, nor had she even hinted at them. Yet, there was something about what he said that made her believe he thought there was something going on between them. Is he really jealous? He has no right. Of course he wants me all to himself, but is unwilling to keep himself from me. Can I really do this? She didn't let her emotions show on her face. Instead, she faked her best smile. Now I'm even more curious. Can I have a hint? She asked playfully. Nope. Though if you look, you can see our destination in front of us. The grand city of Huckstriel appeared to grow out of the land around her. Built on one of the great prairies of Cladonia, Huckstriel boasted some of the tallest buildings in the world, along with one of the busiest spaceports in all of Palmara. It was said, on a clear day, some of the buildings were visible from the northern mountains of Morosia. Abigale had yet to test that theory. One day I will. It was an odd feeling seeing flatland as far as the eye could see and then buildings with various hues of white and blue emerging into the sky. Dorn took control of his speeder and flew through the city, weaving in and out of the buildings with pristine flying. At one point, Abigale witnessed the man-made waterfall of Huckstriel. She had seen pictures and videos of the waterfall before. She'd even visited them once on the solar deck. In person is definitely more awe-inspiring. Water from the two nearby rivers, of which Abigale forgot the names, poured out of the 6 large cylinders and cascaded down into the lower parts of the city. She did know that the rivers flowed down from the north and were a result of snow melting in spring and summer from the northern ice caps. Dorn slowed the Cosmos speeder down and Abigale's heart leapt into her throat. She recognized the building they were flying towards. It belonged to the Chancellor of Cladonia. Why are we going here? She managed to look over at Dorn with a gaping mouth. His response was a larger smile than before. Abigale recalled Dorn's comment about other girls not being impressed. What girl wouldn't be impressed by visiting Chancellor Natalee Allyn? It is said she can tame a tiger with her eyes. In fact, I'm fairly certain she has a pet tiger." She was rambling and stumbling over her words. She hated when she rambled. "She does," Dorn remarked with ease, as if having a pet tiger was a normal part of life. "And you are assuming seeing Natalee was what I was referring to." It wasn't lost on Abigale how Dorn referred to the Chancellor by her first name. He's probably known her since he was a baby. To him, she is simply another person. The Cosmo Speeder hovered to a stop on the bottom of black marble stairs. Halfway up, the stairway split off to the side before continuing to ascend. A large circular platform with 4 stone pillars bearing a flag sat in the midst of the stairwell. The 4 flags represented each of Palmara's nations. Each nation's flag bore a mythological creature as representative of their land. It was fully believed that these creatures once existed. However, no one had encountered any of them in over 1,400 years. The theory, according to her class, was that as humanity grew to be more dependent on cosmology, the creatures disappeared into oblivion as if they were no longer needed. Cladonia's flag bore 4 checkered squares of navy blue and white alternatively. Inside the white squares was the image of a navy blue winged unicorn standing on its hind legs. Calmorn's flag was designed with the head of a bayou, an ancient white tiger with teal stripes believed to have the power of healing. The bayou was embedded inside a sideways black triangle pointed towards the rest of the desert sand flag. Valtor's flag boasted a jungle green kitsune, a fox-like creature with 9 tails who was supposedly born every 1,000 years or so. The kitsune sat still with its 9 tails flaring up behind it in a pale yellow diamond that stretched from top to bottom and side to side of the flag. The outside corners matched the jungle green of the kitsune. Finally, her home nation of Morosia used the image of the griffin on their flag. The griffin was a creature with the head and wings of a hawk, the body of a lion, and an electric tail. Vertically half teal and half black, the wine-red griffin flew stationary in a white circle placed in the middle of the flag. A formally dressed man with a solar blaster strapped to his waist approached her door and opened it for her. His uniform alerted Abigale that he was a member of the Kashyyyk. "Welcome to the Chancellor's residence, Miss Sharpe." She was shocked he addressed her by name. He appeared to notice. "Mr. Bloske informed us of your name before your arrival." "That makes sense. I should have figured that out on my own." She realized the grandeur of the moment was overtaking the logical parts of her brain. "Roden, how are you?" "Doing well, Mr. Bloske. And yourself?" Abigale didn't miss the glance Dorn gave her. "Doing better lately." "Great to hear. If you'd follow me, Chancellor Allyn is waiting for you in her office." Nerves started to bounce around in Abigale's stomach. "It's all right. Act like this is completely normal. Except for me, this isn't normal. I guess if I marry Dorn, I'll have to get used to this sooner or later." Her little pep talk didn't do much to calm her nerves. Walking through the halls of the Chancellor's residence, Abigale took in her surroundings. The walls were decorated with art from years past. Each side of the hall was lined with statues of the most prestigious chancellors standing in perfect likeness with their achievements inscribed underneath. She noticed a few more Kashyyks standing guard near certain rooms. Apparently some of the Cladonian ministers, who were the voted representatives of the people, were in meetings and wished to not be disturbed. Abigale found it odd how this was a public building but also where the Chancellor lived while they were in office. Though if the size of the building was any indication, there were loads of places for Natalee Allyn to find privacy. The Kashyyyk were not a military force. After the defeat of the Drakon Empire, none of the nations of Palmara were permitted to create a military. Instead, each nation was allowed to employ a protective force to safeguard the people, implement the law, and provide security for the nation's ruler. Even though their duties were roughly the same, each nation gave their force a different name. In Cladonia, the Kashyyyk; in Morosia, the Magi; in Calmorn, the Marshals; and in Valtor, the Hoplites. As with any career in Palmara, one's strengths and desires as a young child determined whether they'd fit into one of the protective forces. It also came with the highest tier prestige upon entry, 100,000. My parents hoped one of us was going to have the strength to be a Magi. To their ultimate dismay, that didn't happen. Roden, the Kashyyyk leading them, stopped outside of a doorway. The doors, with all doors in Palmara, was powered by cosmology and programmed with the holographic images. This door was currently programmed with the falling water of the Hochstriel waterfall. He keyed in a code and the waterfall slid to the side, revealing the office of Chancellor Natalee Allyn. All of the walls were glass. As with the doors, the walls had the ability to be programmed to display any scene the owner wished. Apparently, the Chancellor chose to let the windows serve their original purpose. Sunlight poured into the office, blanketing the entire room in the warmth of its rays. The floors were black marble, the same as the stairs outside. On a large cushioned bed mat in front of the massive wooden desk, a giant tiger lay resting its head on its paws, asleep. It must be used to visitors. Welcome, Dorn, and this must be Abigale. It is a pleasure to meet you. Natalee Allyn stood up from her chair behind her desk. Abigale had seen pictures and videos of the woman before. They did not do her justice. She walked towards him with a Verity of prestige, owning the room with every step. Physically fit and boasting a healthy weight, she wasn't a twig like some people Abigale knew. Sharp facial features depicted an intelligent woman who knew how to balance grace and truth on the tip of a knife with ease. Flawless almond skin glistened in the room's glow despite being a woman in her early 50s. From a quick observation, her red curly hair didn't hold any sign of losing its lush color. Dorn shook the Chancellor's hand and Abigale followed. Chancellor Allyn, it's an honor to meet you. Abigale bowed her head in a sign of respect. She wasn't sure what she was supposed to do, so this seemed like the best idea. The Chancellor laughed. Out there, she pointed towards the windows, I'm the Chancellor. In here, when I'm with friends, I'm simply Natalee. There's no need to bow. My apologies. She felt slightly embarrassed. No need, Abigale. No need. Natalee placed a loving hand on her shoulder. Dorn tells me you are studying to become an archaeologist. A fantastic career. Not many people know this, but that was my second highest career choice after, of course, being a politician. My position has actually allowed me to dabble a bit into history. One of the teams stationed here in Huxtrio recently discovered an ancient trove of artifacts buried in a cave system northwest of the city near the shore. The artifacts were discovered on an old wooden boat. It's believed to be from the age of Arnion. Abigale tried to keep up with all the information being presented to her. What? Seriously? That is a momentous find. Our knowledge of that age is very limited due to Drakon destroying all the previous records. Well, he missed this one. Natalee's eyes sparkled as they made contact with Abigale's. She found herself unable to look away. At that moment, she realized why Natalee was voted into a second term as Chancellor. There is love behind those eyes, but also a rock-solid determination. I am mesmerized by them. If I was a tiger, I'd be tame with no hesitation. Would you like to see it? Natalee added, her northern Cladonian accent flowed off her tongue like a smooth cream poured into a morning coffee. Would I? I'd love to, she exclaimed with no restraint. See? Dorn wrapped his arm around her waist. She didn't resist. I knew you'd love it. This is what I was referring to. I am impressed, Abigale admitted with a beaming smile on her face. She wasn't sure why Dorn was doing this. Was this his way of trying to atone for previous actions? Was there an inkling of love in their relationship she didn't know existed? Or was he doing this to show why she needed him? Not anyone could arrange an audience with the Cladonian Chancellor. Her past told her to be careful. For Dorn, prestige was a tool or a weapon depending on the situation. Yet she found herself forgetting all about that. She turned and kissed him on the lips. Thank you. You're welcome. Natalee took off her nexus and placed it on the desk. Rodin? Yes, Chancellor. We are not to be disturbed. If anyone calls or comes looking for me, I will respond to them later. As you wish. Thank you. Natalee leaned down and started to play with the scruff around her tiger's neck. She started speaking, but did not take her eyes away from the giant cat. I'm sure you've heard the rumors. They say I can tame a tiger with my eyes. I believe these rumors started because I can make my opponents see my side of the argument with crystal clear vision. It stops them in their tracks, and more often than not, they end up agreeing with me. Natalee stood up. Come, Renisa, we are going to the lab. Renisa opened her eyes, accompanied by a large yawn. She stretched and started to follow the Chancellor. Maybe they aren't rumors after all. Natalee winked. Abigale didn't know what to say. She was slightly nervous. As if the tiger understood her anxiety, Renisa rubbed up against Abigale's hand with a slight purr. She accepts you. There's no need to be afraid. Come on. You want to see the ship, right? For a few moments, Abigale had forgotten all about the ship. Absolutely. The three of them left the office and took an elevator down nearly 20 levels. When the doors opened, Abigale beheld the wooden hull of an ancient ship. On the bow, faded yet still recognizable, was the name Alyce. Abigale recognized the word as being ancient Cladonian, but she didn't know the meaning off the top of her head. A holographic depiction of the ship was displayed off to the side with a few different archaeologists discussing some important matter. Or at least, I imagine it's important. Look at all those artifacts. Natalee wasn't lying when she said there was a treasure trove. Wait, is that a real journal? Oh my, there's journals! With an S! The words in these journals could change our entire understanding of life in the age of Arnion. Dr. Davis. Yes, Chancellor? This is Abigale, the young archaeologist I was telling you about. I'd like for you to include her in your work for the rest of the day. Show her what you've learned so far. I hear she has studied the ancient languages and has a respectful understanding of them. Maybe she will be able to help you with some of the mental blocks your team has run into. The doctor extended his hand. Welcome to the team, Abigale. I'm Dr. Neal Davis. It is a pleasure to meet you. Abigale accepted the handshake. Likewise, Doctor. The public doesn't yet know about this discovery, Abigale, but once it does, you will be included as one of the discoverers of this massive archaeological find. Abigale caught her breath. The path towards great prestige lay before her. She knew this was Dorn's plan all along. She knew it meant he didn't really love her. She knew he was only showing her what he could offer her. She no longer cared. If being with Dorn allowed her to become one of the most prestigious archaeologists in all of Palmara, then she'd run full steam ahead without looking back. After all, it was what Daniel would want her to do. Thank you for listening to my book Palmara, A Dying Breed. I'd love to hear your feedback. What do you like? What do you think needs some work? What are you most interested to see happen? What questions do you have? At the end of every chapter, I'll have these slides that show how time works in Palmara, plus the different sayings and terms to help you engage with the world. As well, the characters who appear in each chapter will be found in the video description. Be sure to check it out. And if you're enjoying this and enjoy other stories, please make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. You can always join the Discord with the link in the description as well. Until next time, Hine Akmatov, which means how pleasant it is for humanity to dwell in harmony with one another. Take care.